What's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode podcast weekly real estate tip, where every single week I come to delivering different tips, tactics, and strategies that I've learned in my 20 plus year long real estate journey that have allowed me to become one of the top realtors and team leaders on the planet, with selling well over 7,000 homes and sharing this information with you in hopes that you take this information in, you take massive action on it to go out there and create that business in life that you truly know that you want and deserve. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about mastering lead generation here in 2024. As you well know, the game has changed a lot. Over the last couple of years, the real estate market has changed. We've kind of done a flip. All that low-hanging fruit has dried up. Things are more challenging for most inside of our industry. So today I want to walk you through, okay, what is it that the top of the top in this industry do to truly master lead generation, so that way you can have abundance of leads, and not just leads, but your ability to convert those leads into customers and clients. Look, as real estate agents, real estate professionals, the first thing that you must master is your ability for new client acquisition, meaning you got to be able to generate more leads and convert more leads into clients than you can handle. If you have not mastered this, this is the first thing that you need to get dialed in and master. And that's what I'm going to be covering here in depth on this GSD Mode podcast today. Now, I want to be very clear on this. In this podcast today, I'm not going to be covering the actual best strategies to go out there and do. I'm going to walk you through how you can go out there and have success with the lead strategies that you are doing. Because the reality is this, is everything works and nothing doesn't. It all works at the end of the day. So how do you then identify what the best strategy is for you? Because it's nuanced. We got to assess, we got to break down, we got to look at what your current situation is, what your strengths are, what's going on in your overall market, what your commitments are outside of real estate, what your budget is, finance, like all of those things. We got to take all these things into consideration and put together that right strategy for you. And it's such a noisy world out there. You jump on YouTube or you jump on podcasts. And I know that that might sound hypocritical, because here I am creating a podcast on this, but you'll hear so many people out there saying, oh, this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. That might be the best for them based on their current situation, based on their market, their strengths, their situation, but it may not be the best for you. And I can just tell you this, after doing so many different lead generation strategies, pretty much testing and trying every single strategy that can exist under the sun in this industry over my 20-year journey, I can tell you this, it all works. So if it all works, why do some of these things not work for different people inside of our industry? It's because they're not following these 8 steps to mastering lead generation that I'm going to walk you through here today. Now, real quick, before I jump into this, as I said a moment ago, coming up with the right lead gen strategy for ourselves individually can be nuanced. So if you are struggling with this, and if you want to jump on a 1-hour free long Zoom coaching call with me personally, so I can help get an idea of what's going on in your business, what your business is currently at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals and visions are for your business, what your biggest obstacles are, what your current situation is, then once I've gathered all that information, be able to then help craft you and give to you what I believe to be the best overall blueprint strategy for you personally to get from where you're at to where it is that you want to go. If that's something you want to take advantage of, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. All right, so now let's jump into the 8 steps to mastering lead generation inside your real estate business. All right, so step number 1 here is to identify your personal timeline. Now, why is this important? Different lead generation strategies will have different timelines. Look, if you're doing marketing, if you're doing kind of more inbound based lead sources, not always, but about 95% of the time, or maybe even above that, okay, inbound based strategies tend to be longer term, more nurture based, longer term conversions, longer term timelines, where more prospecting based, outbound prospecting based end up being more now money, quicker to a commission check activities, right? So then we got to look at, okay, what your personal timeline is. So it's not infrequent that I'll get somebody reaching out to me for some help that will sit there and say something to me like, hey, I really want to focus on YouTube and I really want to focus on social media organic to build my real estate business. And I'll say to them, okay, hey, those things are great. Just like I said earlier, everything works, nothing doesn't. Those things are amazing. I do a ton of those things in my real estate business too. And those things make me a lot of money in this industry. But then I'll ask them, how long can you go without money? Or how long can you go without a paycheck before you're in trouble? Then they might say something like 4 months. So here is it then where the conundrum lies. Okay, let's just say YouTube is an example. You do everything perfectly. You don't make one mistake, which is already as difficult as it is because it's a little bit of a science. But let's just say you have the right blueprint. You don't make one mistake. You're executing on it consistently and flawlessly. Well, on average, it's about 9 months before you start seeing consistent good business flow from that lead source. So then from there, that conundrum is, okay, boom, they're going to be out of money before they're able to start seeing the fruits of those labors. That doesn't mean that you got to abandon those longer term strategies, but then it might make sense to stack it with some now immediate business based strategies. So when I say now immediate, of course, there's nothing that's now and immediate in this business. So how I kind of separate and segment the two is, okay, what can you do that's going to lead to a paycheck with under 120 days? And that's going to be prospecting based stuff. So another example of this, I've got a very effective, high converting expired letter, which I love to send because I like doing business where people call me, they reach out to me. I'm not having to chase, I'm attracting. So I like when people come to me, not to say that I don't do outbound stuff and prospecting based stuff, but my favorite way to build my business is where people are reaching out to me, where I'm attracting, not having to go out there and chase. So my expired letter, it's amazing, man. I sent it out. Then all of a sudden I got people calling me saying, hey, Josh, I'm getting your letters. We're thinking about selling our house, wondering if you would be willing to come meet with us, versus me calling them up, and getting those phone calls of, oh, you're the 30th realtor that's called me today, hang-ups, whatever that may be, from that. But here's the thing with those expired letters. Yes, they work. They're amazing, high converting. But my average expired inbound call on that letter campaign is after letter number 8, which is just under 6 months post that expired listing expiring. So then from there, okay, I get that call. Let's just say it's about 5.5 months after I put them on that letter campaign. I go on the listing appointment, I secure the listing. Then from there, maybe it takes them 2 weeks to get that listing prep before we're ready to market. So now it's 6 months to market. Then, okay, average days on market. My market is about 6 weeks. Then from there, let's just say we got another 6 weeks of a closing date. So now you do the math on that, and I should have jotted this down. So if you fact check me on this, I'm going to be off on those dates, but it's going to be, like 8 to 9 months before a paycheck in hand. Where if I need listings like by the end of this week, okay, I can pick up the phone, get on the phones and call that same lead source and guarantee to go out there and get a listing by the end of this week, with the right process, frequency, and skill set with calling expireds. So this is where we have to deal in realities and look at our timeline. How quickly do you need to scale up your business? Are you okay with status quo in your business for the next 6 to 12 months before you start to see before you start to see a significant uptick, or do you need to scale up your business really fast? We got to look at your current situation. So step number 1, when it comes to mastering lead gen strategies, because we got to make sure you are identifying the right strategies based on your current situation, is to make sure you've identified your personal timeline and knowing how quickly you need to be scaling up your business, because that will then quickly sift and sort through. So if you were to come to me and say, dude, I got 90 days to turn this thing around. Okay. We are going to need to do prospecting based activities. I'm probably going to sit there. I just had a call with this the other day, about 2 days ago. Somebody that I know in a situation where they need to turn their business around immediately. So then I help them set up a 3-pronged strategy. But all of these 3 prongs were, assessing their current opportunities they have available to them, and then going out there and doing outbound sources, things that are that are within their control to go out there and make these things a reality. Okay, so step number 2 then is to identify your personal strengths and what excites you. Now, I'll be the first one to say and admit that there are times where I got to do things that I don't enjoy doing, based on that situation. Like for me, dude, I hate the phones as much as anybody. I hate prospecting. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I don't hate it because it doesn't work. It works, and it works amazing. It's just my least favorite way to grow my real estate business. but I've also been in some pinches where I need to scale up my real estate business really fast. And then I have to incorporate some of those activities that I may not enjoy doing, but I need to do to turn my business around in a quick manner. So I'm not saying that at all times we get to do the things that excite us. But when we take this into account, the reason why this is so important. So when we identify our strengths and identify things that excite us. So then from there, the reason why this is important is, okay, the more that something excites you, the more that you're attracted to something, the higher the probability is that you are going to truly master it and you are going to stay consistent with it. Because if you enjoy it, if it excites you, it interests you, you're going to invest that time to truly master this source, this strategy, this skill sets, the process, all the things required to go out there and master lead generation. You're going to usually master it and do it more consistently at a higher level. So then for me, okay, I love inbound strategies. Again, like I said, doesn't mean I don't do outbound, or when I got started, didn't mean I didn't do outbound. I did. But then from there, okay, my primary sources are going to be the ones that excite me, that I'm going to put more focus on, that eventually, once those get going and get the momentum that they need, I'm able to scale my business at a higher level long-term with those things. So identifying and making a list of what are your overall strengths and what excites you. We want to play to our strengths. And really, so with this, we're playing to our strengths and playing to our passions, right? So, and when I say this, I'm not saying that, oh, you got to just love this thing and be obsessed with this thing. Look, I get that there's probably other things that you'd rather be doing than lead generation and lead conversion inside your life. But I'm just saying, okay, like if you could have your preference out of all the different things that exist out there, what are the things that kind of excite you the most? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so step number 3 is divide and conquer. So now when we start breaking down, okay, now the first 2 steps are really just to help you kind of segment, sift, and sort through based on your timeline, strengths, and what excites you of, okay, what are the buckets? What are those, 2 to 3, different lead strategies that you are going to start focusing on adopting inside your real estate business? Now we got to get into the weeds on this. And this is the difference between the pros and the amateurs, is these steps that I'm walking you through, especially as we get deeper into these steps. So in step 3, this is what I see. One of the biggest differences between the pros and amateurs meaning those that struggle with lead gen and lead conversion their whole entire career, those that are playing the commission roller coaster, versus those like myself in the top, 1% of the 1% of this industry, that go out there and just continue to blow it up and are able to go out there and generate more clients and customers than they can handle. So step number 3 is what I call divide and conquer. This is where we really want to break down our different strategy into strategic steps. So then that way we can ensure that we are maximizing and optimizing every single portion of that lead generation activity. So I'm going to give some examples here. I'm going to break down 2 different examples, sphere of influence example, and then an open house example. Now, I'm not saying that you got to do these things. I'm just using these as examples so you can apply this to your Facebook ads or your YouTube strategy or whatever it is. Insert whatever name of the strategy that you're doing. But we want to take, okay, a singular strategy and then plug this in. Now, sphere of influence is going to be, kind of multi-pronged. But I want to do sphere of influence as an example on this because this is the one commonality that we all have that we should all be focused on inside of a real estate business is our sphere of influence. So if you look at your sphere of influence, these are those warmer relationships, people that, already know you, like you, and trust you, that already have some type of a relationship with you, maybe outside of real estate or not. So, past clients is one silo of your sphere of influence. But again, this is the difference between pros and amateurs. So looking at your sphere of influence and thinking of this is a wheel, so you got this wheel, and then from there, you got the hub spokes, right? So now we got the spokes, right? So when you're looking at this, I want to break down all the different silos inside my sphere of influence and then make sure that I've got a proven strategy for each one of these. So if we look at your sphere of influence wheel, it's like, okay, you got past clients. So then from there, you got buyer past clients, seller past clients, right? So within that, okay, now we're going to break down and make sure that we have the best strategy for that, right? So, okay, what is your overall strategy for your past clients, which is one silo of your sphere of influence? Then from there, again, so the way I look at a sphere of influence is, okay, Maybe you walk into the grocery store, you're pushing your cart, you're at the grocery store, you see somebody, you recognize them, they recognize you. Maybe you don't remember their name and you don't even quite remember how you actually even know them, but you know that you know them. They know that they know you. You wave, you say hi, you smile and you keep going. Like it's a warmer relationship. These are non-cold relationships. So then from there, okay, like maybe you go to a local church inside your market, right? So then from there, okay, boom, that's another silo of your sphere of influence. Okay, so then now, again, we're dividing and conquering. Okay, what is the best overall strategy for those that I go to church with for me to optimize that silo of my sphere of influence to maximize on repeat referral business? Okay, so then from there, maybe you've got kids and you're involved, you got their school, and then you got all those other, it's like, okay, I've got 3 kids, I got a daughter, then I look at, okay, not just their schooling, but then what are they involved with in outside of school? Because, okay, I've got, their friends' parents that I know, I got, son in soccer, I got another son that's in band and, that band of volleyball, my daughter's in cross country, so then boom, we kind of got those, each of those can kind of be a different silo where I'm meeting different parents at all these different events. Okay, is there any way that I could be, strategy with this? Can I offer to, again, dial into my strengths? So an example of this, it's like, okay, like my wife's a good photographer. So she goes to all her kids' sports and, does it, shoots photos and all the stuff, and then, collects the names and emails of all the parents, and then we email them out to that. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, like for me personally, I'm not going to add those people to a drip campaign and start bombarding them with, I'm not going to start spamming with a bunch of real estate stuff. But what can I do with those people, right? We have a connection. I can friend request them on Facebook, Instagram. I'm using those as my social CRMs. I can scrape that data, upload that to a private custom audience. Now I'm retargeting with Facebook and Instagram ads. So all of a sudden they're starting to see that, oh, hey, Dad, that's Michaela's dad. We see at whatever. Oh, he's also in real estate. Right? Like they're okay, like just breaking down each of these different silos. Maybe, what are your hobbies? Do you work out at a gym? So we're breaking down each one of these silos. So then within your sphere of influence wheel, it's like all of a sudden, maybe you got 8 different silos and you got a strategy for each that you are deploying. Again, this is what pros do versus amateurs, is they divide and conquer this stuff out. Okay, so now let's talk about breaking down one specific lead gen strategy. And I'm just going to use open houses as an example. What do amateurs do? They're going to go out there, do an open house, put up 6, maybe 12 signs max, have no strategy for the lead gen strategy, lead gen pillar that they're doing. They haven't chunked this down to strategies. Now, I'm not going to get into this in this video because you are in this podcast, because you can go to, I've got tons of podcasts talking about, my mega open house process and strategy. But when I start chunking that down, okay, there's 6 overall steps to it. So I'm going to chunk these down to make sure I'm maximizing and optimizing on each one of these. Okay, so when I look at open houses, it's like, okay, I got property selection. So I got to make sure I'm nailing property selection. Then from there, I got pre-marketing to pre-market the event to maximize and optimize, because any lead gen activity that we do exists to maximize the number of leads that we get from it. Then from there, I got overall setup. Then I got the sign-in process. Then I got the tour process. Then at the end of the tour, I've got the going in for the appointment setting process. Then for those that I'm unable or that were unable or willing to set the appointment, then I've got my follow-up process. So then I've got these 6 different steps to my overall open house strategy that I can start chunking those down and then making sure that I have the right process and strategy for each one of those 6 things. So this is what I mean by divide and conquer. Got to make sure this is, again, if you want to go out there and we're talking about master, what do pros do? They master their shit. So this is what we're talking about inside your real estate business. Okay, so step number 4 is to, per lead source, I want you to identify the consumer timeline. And so this is going to help you then identify. So per lead source, we want to identify timeline. Now, before, in step number 1, we talked about your personal timeline. Now we're actually talking about the consumer's timeline, meaning the potential lead to client timeline per this lead source, right? So we want to look at this, and this is where we just got to do our due diligence on this. This allows us then to identify how long, how frequent, and in which medium do we need to follow up with this lead source to maximize conversions. So an example of this, let's just say you're doing paid Facebook ads. Well, I know that the timeline for my average paid Facebook lead that is in my CRM is 6.7 months before they become a client. So then from there, okay, the average realtor, follows up with twice? Maybe they follow up with, the first 7 days, they only follow up twice. Okay, if I'm going to go after that lead source, that is not enough frequency and reach out for me to ever go out there and convert. So I might as well just not invest any money in that, because I'm just going to piss all that time, money, and energy away. We got to make sure that we're following up for long enough with enough frequency. So long enough period of time, right? Again, with enough frequency. So that's how frequently we're reaching out. And we got to make sure that we're following up with the right mediums. So email, text, phone call, and so forth, to maximize conversions. One of the big mistakes that so many people make is they get so focused on lead gen, but then they don't think about their lead follow. That's kind of like trying to get in great shape and just focusing on just the workout, but not adjusting your diet. It's like they kind of got to go together, right? Like you can't outwork your diet. Like, yeah, the workout's good. You need it for your cardiovascular system. You need it when you lose the weight to have the shape that you want to have, all of those things. But you got to have the diet in place too. So just like with your lead gen, okay, like if you don't have, effective lead follow-up protocols in place, okay, you're not going to then convert any of those leads at a high enough level to go out there and have any success. So we want to max. So thinking about this and breaking this down from lead inception till boom, they become a client. What is every step that needs to take place to maximize and optimize those results? And this is more important now than really any time that I've seen in my 20-year-long real estate journey. Not that they've always been important, they have been. But if you look at like 2012 through till middle of 2022, 2023-ish, I mean, that was just easy street. There was so much low-hanging fruit. You could kind of show up, kind of be consistent, kind of work hard, and go out there and make multiple six figures. All that low-hanging fruit is dried up. If you are not on your A game right now, you're going to get your ass kicked. It's just, and we've seen a lot of people get their ass kicked. And it's not because the market is hard, right? I mean, you could sit there and argue. The market was so good, people were able to just get away with lazy practices and be amateurs. This is the time where the pros shine. You can go out there and be growing your business just like I'm doing. Our business is kicking ass right now, continuing to kick ass. But these are the things that we are obsessed with making sure that we have dialed in. Okay, so now the fifth step, I got four fingers in. So the fifth step now is to identify the psychology per lead source. So this is, okay, what's going on in their head? What are the concerns? What are their fears? And if you were to go get a degree in marketing, okay, they're going to call this the psychographics. You got to know what's going on in the head, of your potential clients, right? So of these leads. This allows you then to understand what your messaging needs to be. So how I speak to an expired is different than a FSBO. They got different things, different concerns, different wants, different needs, different fears. How I speak to an absentee owner is different than a divorce. How I speak to a pre-foreclosure is different than all of those. How I speak to a Zillow lead is different than a Facebook lead, so we got to break these down. So then from there, when we kind of match 4 and 5, now we know how long and how frequent and in which mediums we need to follow up. Then from there, now that we know the psychology per lead source here in step number 5, we know what our messaging needs to be to maximize, on our overall conversions. So like, look, you could go out there and start doing direct mail. But if you have a crappy message on that direct mail, okay, you're probably going to yield zero to no, low to no conversions. With that, we got to make sure that we got, the right message showing up to the right people with the right frequency, with the right mediums to maximize conversions. Okay, so step number 6 is then to identify the best systems for your real estate business to then put these processes into. Because what we just got done talking about is really our processes, right? So our processes, meaning what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, where we're doing it, right? So then those processes, we want to have those live inside of a system to ensure that those processes are executed on the same way each and every single time, to ensure things don't get missed, and to help us execute on those in the most effective and efficient manner. Systems only exist to go out there and make sure our processes are executed upon, right? So then now that you know what your processes are, then you can go out there and identify the best supporting system and or systems to ensure that these things are executed on, again, in the way that they need to be executed on. Okay, step number 7 is now we got to track. Right, we got to track each step of this. So per lead source, we're going to be tracking, of course, number of leads. If it's marketing based, you're going to be tracking, of course, your cost per lead. So number of leads per lead source. Then from there, and cost per lead again. But then from there, okay, number of reach outs, number of conversations, appointment set, appointment conductions, clients closings. So then from there, all of this tells us if it's marketing based, you know your cost per acquisition, you know your overall conversions. If it's some, activities like open houses or calling or networking or so many free ways to generate business, but you still then know how much time, how much energy and effort that it takes to go out there and generate a closing. So now we know your overall conversions, creates predictability, but then also this allows us, because when we know all of those metrics that I just showed you or just walked you through, now you can sit there and see where your bottlenecks are. So where your area of improvement needs to happen inside your business. You got to know the data. You got to know the details inside your business. If you don't, just telling you right now, if you're not tracking your data, you cannot make smart strategic decisions inside your business. It's an impossibility long-term to create any element of predictability. And it's also impossible to be able to identify what skill sets, that you need to improve upon inside your real estate business to get your business to the next level. Now, the 8th step is something that everybody knows about, right? But now you just got to stay consistent. We got to make sure that if you don't want to experience those ups and downs, those roller coasters. So if you want consistent outcomes, whether that's maybe you're making, 40 grand a month and you just want to be able to maintain that 40 grand a month every single month, or maybe you're making 40 grand a month, but next year you want to be making 60 grand a month. And then next year you want to be making 80 grand a month and you want to continue to scale that business, regardless. The only way to create any element of consistency, if you want consistent outcomes, that only happens through consistent right daily actions. So you got to make sure that you are showing up and doing the right daily consistent actions every day, every week, every month in order to have consistent outcomes. Input always equates to output. So we got to make sure that we are staying consistent with the right activities daily, weekly, monthly inside our real estate business. So we have those consistent outcomes inside of our business. So step number 8, staying consistent. So just to recap those real quick. Okay. Step number 1, identify personal timeline. So the first 2 are going to just help you again segment and be able to identify, okay, what strategies are available to me that make the most strategic sense in my business. So we're identifying your personal timeline, meaning like how quickly do you need to scale up your business? Then from there, step number 2, we're identifying strengths, your personal strengths and what excites you. The third component, this is where we start getting into the weeds and really getting to that pro level, is dividing and conquering, right? So we're going to break down into strategic steps. That's where we gave the examples of your sphere of influence, creating all the different silos and a strategy for each. And that's where I walked you through like the 6-step open house process. Okay. Step number 4 is identify the timeline of the actual lead source. So now you know how frequent, how long, how frequent, in which mediums to follow up. The 5th is to identify the psychology per lead source. So you know what your messaging needs to be. 6th step is to identify the system and or systems to help consistently execute on the processes, right? 7th step is to go out there and track. And again, 8th step is to stay consistent. Now, again, if you are struggling with identifying the best proven plan to get you from where you're at to where you want to go in your personal real estate business, I invite you to schedule a 100% free, 100% zero pressure Zoom coaching call with me personally, where we're going to break down where your business is at, what your 12-month goals are, what your long-term goals and visions are for your real estate business, what you're currently doing, what your biggest obstacles are. And then based on that information and based on your current situation, your strengths, your weaknesses in your current situation, I'm then going to map out and break down my personal recommendation for you of what my recommended blueprint strategy is for you to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the quickest, most effective, efficient, profitable manner possible. And if this is something that you want to take advantage of and schedule, go to www.gsdmode.com/Zoom call. All right, you guys, I hope that this is helpful. I know that this was a lot, but these are the things that we need to know. I know it's easy to just like, Josh, just tell me what to do, but look, if you don't get these things down, because what works today may not work tomorrow, and what works, tomorrow may not work, the year after that. Like we got to learn how, okay, well, how do we identify the right steps, the right processes, the right strategy, for us to go out there and implement on, regardless of the marketplace. And again, what it's nuanced, right? Like what works best for me may not work best for you. Just like, okay, on my team, I got 50, over 50 full-time agents running and gunning every single day for me and my team. I don't have the same strategy applied to each one of those agents. A lot of those agents aren't doing the same strategies that I do and that I've done to go out there and create success, because those things don't align with their strengths and with their skill sets. And, right. So this is where we got to then identify what is, because when people say best, again, there is no such thing as best. It's what is best for you. That is what is important. And you and I might have totally different personality types. Like I'm very introverted. So I don't like networking. I don't like, now do I have agents that network? Yeah, they're amazing at it. I help them come up with the right strategies for those things, but that's aligned with their personality type. But being very introverted, and being also pretty damn tech savvy, and loving AI and loving, online systems and funnels. Okay, I can sit there for 12 hours a day building out complex back-end funnels and different things, where I have agents that come and work for me, or coaching clients are like, Josh, dude, I'd rather piss glass. Yeah, right. Probably should have framed that in a better way, but they're like, that sounds like nothing sounds more painful than that to me. Yeah, right. Again, it all works. Everything works, nothing doesn't. So it's about identifying what is best for you and then being strategic with it by applying these 8 steps, so you can go out there and maximize and optimize the best overall lead gen strategies for you personally. So again, I hope that this was helpful. Truly appreciate you watching and or listening. Keep crushing it. Keep kicking ass. And I will see you next time. Peace.